This is Mr. Smith and the Roach, written by J. Dibenedetto, narrated by Chris Dale. Prologue. In his 61 years of life, Detective John Wilkes Smith, NYPD, retired, had witnessed many things that he would never have believed possible had he not seen them with his own eyes. Partly, that was because he was not, and never had been, a terribly imaginative man. But even the most fanciful mind could hardly have dreamed up the scene taking place right now in what was formerly John's home office, now pressed into service as a second bedroom. John's brand new roommate was getting ready for bed. The sudden need for a roommate to help pay the rent had been an unwelcome surprise, although it probably shouldn't have been. But, as he and his former co-workers in the homicide division often remarked, what was done was done. There was no undoing the financial disaster that had befallen John, and there was no undoing the arrangement that had brought a much oversized member of the species Periplaneta americana into his home. No, until today John would never have believed, and he doubted very much that anyone else would have either, that he would be sharing his apartment tonight with a walking, talking, trenchcoat-wearing, 6-foot-tall cockroach. Chapter 1. A man and a roach walk into a bar. The day had begun like every other day since his retirement. John awoke at 7 a.m. and reached over the pile of unopened mail stacked high on his bedside table to silence the alarm clock. Unlike every other day, he was clumsy and knocked the top 2 or 3 inches of the pile onto the floor. He sighed as he climbed out of bed and bent over to retrieve the envelopes that had fallen. Before he put them back, to be ignored for another day, something made him look more closely at them, specifically the envelope from his bank. He recalled receiving it the day before. He'd assumed it was his monthly statement, although now he thought about it, those usually arrived the first week of the month. Yesterday was the 22nd of October, and the envelope was lighter than the ones that usually carried his statements. It was not a statement. Instead, it was something John hadn't received in nearly 40 years. An overdraft notice. The last time, the only time, he'd bounced a check, Jimmy Carter was president, and the original Star Wars was still a month away from premiering in theaters. He didn't understand. It was impossible. His pension was deposited on the 15th of the month, every month, like clockwork. There was over $7,000 in his checking account, even after the criminally high bill from the auto body shop and the charge for his new glasses. Except, obviously, there wasn't $7,000 in his account, was there? There wouldn't be a human being available to call, or even one of the replicants that staffed most call centers, at this uncivilized hour. Anyway, he'd be far better equipped to deal with whatever had happened after a hot shower and a cup of coffee. Or 3. None of that helped, however, when he called the bank at 8:30 a.m. John navigated his way through the various phone menus until he reached a live person, and it took Zelda in the Charleston call center less than 30 seconds to discover the problem. There had been a deposit on the 15th, but it was not for the usual amount of $6,105.23. It was for only $1,200. Zelda had no explanation for the discrepancy. She confirmed that every other detail was the same as previous payments, except for the amount. Zelda sounded apologetic, but explained there was nothing more she could tell him. "That's all the information I have, Mr. Smith. You'll have to talk to the pension people." "I intend to," he told her, in a tone of voice that he'd mostly reserved for use in the interrogation room back before his retirement. Zelda wished him good luck and a good day, and John hung up the phone. He turned his attention to the pile of mail. Before he took the matter up with someone at the investment firm of Gardner, Temple and Rhodes, the company that managed his pension, it would be best to check if they'd sent him a letter that might explain what had happened. Sure enough, there was. It was buried another 6 inches down in the pile of mail, and postmarked September 13th. John tore the envelope open and pulled out a very long letter.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?